Woo! The Berserk man talks about Berserk once again. Whoa, yeah, it's not like it's the millionth time I haven't done it, but it's actually been a long time since I did a Berserk arc ranking video. In fact, my last one, I disagree with it a decent amount now to where I felt like deleting that previous video. But today we're going to be ranking all of the Berserk arcs from Black Swordsman all the way to Fantasia, since it doesn't seem like, well, you know. But at number 5, I have Black Swordsman arc. I think Black Swordsman arc is an amazing introductory arc. It's great. We get everything foreshadowing the eventual tragedy of the eclipse. We have everything in terms of the revenge dynamic between Guts and Griffith. That clearly there were some things that didn't seem to be entirely planned out yet, but even Guts' trauma seemed to be pretty well placed. And I think the arc did a good job of portraying the extremely dark and brutal tone of Berserk, but whilst also showing that Guts still has more to him than just the typical raw badass. He also gets to bonk a lot of skeletons in this arc, so yeah. But with it being the shortest arc in the entire series, having the least amount of content, and simply being the introductory arc for the series, whilst although I do think it is a phenomenal introductory arc, I can't really put it above any of the others. Now, before we get into the next arc, I have to thank the sponsor for today's video, Raid Shadow Legends. This game has done nothing but to grow and grow over time, with a lot of versatility and options in terms of your champions, with over 600 up to this point. All of these champions each have their own lore and purpose in the world of this game. And yet, not so long ago, Raids actually brought a completely new addition to its boss roster, which was already immense. And it is by far its most impressive thing yet, the Hydra. It is the ultimate enemy. I mean, you should all be familiar with Hydras in fantasy settings, even Berserk presenting it in its story. The Hydra having multiple heads, each head would have its own ability and status effect on your team and on your champions, but if you're able to sever one of the heads, you'll be able to get in a huge amount of damage. It's an insane kind of tactical strategy fight, but I think it's definitely worth it for all the prizes that you get for taking things down. So if there was any time to get into Raid Shadow Legends, it would be now. Because if you click my link in the description or scan my QR code on the screen, you'll be able to get bonuses up to worth of $30. Free champion Ayana, 200,000 in silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard. So you're able to summon another really cool champion as soon as you get in the game. All of that treasure is waiting for you. So make sure you download Raid Shadow Legends and have a great time playing. Now, from here on out, when it actually comes to ranking the arcs, it becomes a little difficult, as for me, each arc is a 10 out of 10 in its own respective way. However, with that being said, and with the arc still being incomplete, despite some of the amazing chapters that it has, at number 4, I have Fantasia. I think Fantasia has some amazing moments with going back into Guts' past once again, Casca's dreamscape, and all of the crazy stuff that was happening in the recent chapters. But it was an arc that I think never really got to reach its climax, and due to that, I just can't put it above the other arcs that I think had already everything completed. Its expositional stage, rising action, climax, and eventual resolution. I think Fantasia, though, is of course extremely essential. It's part of the story, but also extremely beautiful in how it's able to just have so many nice character moments, and it really feels like a downtime from all of the just dark intensity that we've been experiencing up to this point, and it's showing a little bit more of that beautiful side to the world of Berserk, despite the horrible things that still happen. But still, number 4. I already said before that this was tough, but number 3 and 2 is what I go back and forth on the most, and this could change on any day. Same with number 1. Number 1 and 2 swap as well, so this is a whole, it depends on what day you ask me, but for the sake of this video, at number 3, I have the Millennium Falcon arc. I think Millennium Falcon is the arc with the most amount of stuff that happens. It has the most epic moments. For example, the entire conflict with Ganishka, the Berserk armor, which, I mean, do I need to say much? As well as a vital introduction more so to the cast of characters like Serpico and more so Farnese, who would go on to develop into just an amazing character, as well as Shirke and Isidro, and you get the point. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm really wondering if I have it at 3, because this arc from start to finish is, I think, a dark fantasy epic at its absolute best, and it I mean, it starts off with the Hill of Swords, and then it ends with Griffith basically combining the astral and the physical. Like, it's absolutely insane, the stuff that happens in this arc. But regardless, I'll explain why I have number 2 at number 2. But Millennium Falcon is, if you had it at your number 1, I would not blame you at all. Again, for me, all of these are 10 out of 10. Now, slightly above it, at number 2, is Conviction. Now, I include the Lost Children arc with Conviction, as Lost Children is simply a mini arc. If I were to separate the Lost Children arc from Conviction, this ranking would be pretty different. In fact, I don't know where I'd put Lost Children by itself, but I digress. I think Lost Children is a lot less epic than Millennium Falcon is, but I think in terms of themes and what it does and what it has with Guts' character is probably some of my favorite stuff in the entire series. It's a lot more personal, I feel like, and the entire just scheme in the background with the God Hand manipulating this religion to bring Griffith back absolutely blew my mind away. On first read-through, seeing Griffith come back was tremendous. And I think Mazgus is a better antagonist that people give him credit for sometimes. I definitely think he's better than Ganishka. Again, even though I think Ganishka is a lot more grand, I think what Mazgus represents in terms of religious, how would I even, corrupt religious zealousy, if that's, zealousy, is that a word? Anyways, point is, I think Conviction does get into some really intriguing topics for me regarding the nature of the god in this world of Berserk, and just seeing, again, Guts as a character, moments like cracks in the blade is just, I love those moments in the series, as well as I think the Guts and Puck dynamic is at its absolute best. So just the dark, broken down nature, seeing Guts after the eclipse, and again, including Lost Children, what a phenomenal stint within the story, and the entire conflict with Rosine was just masterclass. To me, it's perfect. Now, number 1 is, well, Golden Age, Process of Elimination, right? Now, even though I have Golden Age as my number 1, I don't think Berserk takes a dip in the series. I think it just maintains a level of brilliance, and again, you could argue it does get better in Conviction and then Millennium Falcon, and I even know some people who have Fantasia above it. Again, perfectly fine subjective opinion, but when I look at Berserk and what it does with its characters, and the best character writing in, like, just in a package, it would have to be Golden Age. You're talking about everything that makes Guts the character who he is, that the other arcs would then build upon and continue, like Conviction, for example, and then, of course, Millennium Falcon and Fantasia, but also Griffith as a character. We get one of the greatest antagonists in all of anime and manga, and I mean, some could argue an entertainment period, which I might make that argument, but you basically get the heart of who his character is in that singular arc. And I think Casca's brilliance as a character has kind of been undermined recently. I've seen a lot of Farnese praise, which is totally fine, and if you have Farnese above Casca as a character, that's again fine. I think Farnese is phenomenal, but I think a lot of people have forgotten just how great the entire topic of love and romance and Casca understanding her womanhood was in that arc. Like, it's brilliant, and her relationship with Guts is, I'm a sucker for romance. So for this arc to be the medieval epic that it was, and building up to the what I would argue probably the most infamous climax in manga with the eclipse, and the entire relationship with the Band of the Hawk, the essentials of what makes these characters who they are, it's all in Golden Age. The introduction of the supernatural elements like Zod and the God Hand, and I think Golden Age, it did such a great job as a backstory arc that it makes Black Swordsman better once you read Golden Age. I feel like it's always in that conversation, and for me, no matter how much I try to look at the other arcs, and again, you can put it above it if you want, I just, like, Golden Age, just, it feels right being in that number 1 spot. And that honestly says a lot, because again, Millennium Falcon is a lot larger in terms of scale and what it does and its fantasy elements. It just blows the door open and how epic it is, but that goes to show just how great I think Golden Age is in terms of what it did with its characters. Honestly, it's just... emotionally, it hits for me to this day, just is harder than anything. But yeah, that's the Berserk arc ranking. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell notifications. This has been the Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day, and peace.